Harry has reaffirmed our suspicions about being brainwashed by Meghan. Spare is proof. Harry did provide those insights in his memoir Spare about his relationship with his family members. When it comes to royal mottos, we know the royal families is never complain, never explain. Well, I think a really good one for Meghan and Harry could be always complain. As I said recently, Meghan and Harry's PR suggesting that the royal family doesn't care about Invictus Games is ridiculous. And I'm happy to see that so many of you share the same opinion. And I'm going to talk about your opinions a little later in this video. But first, let's talk a little bit about the headline. Now, as I said, complaining has become a trademark of the Sussexes, but we still are not sure if this is part of who Harry is, or is it because Meghan poisoned his brain. So let's take a look at some relevant facts that may help us understand the situation a little better. Okay, so there are a few things that Harry made clear to the whole world. Number one, he is incredibly jealous of his older brother. He basically hates his father. He really hates his stepmother. He thinks it's perfectly acceptable and even warranted to insult and criticize his sister-in-law. He can't stand his niece and his nephews. He's obsessed with his deceased mother. He had no respect whatsoever for his grandparents. He's more than happy to intrude upon and insult his cousins, his aunts, his uncles. And he shows no appreciation whatsoever for things that his family did for him throughout his entire overprivileged life. And Harry sees no problem with making money off the very family and institution that he publicly goes after. He openly exploits and destroys the memory of his late mother and his grandparents too. I mean, even the dead are not safe from Harry's abuse and his disrespect. And that's just his family we're talking about. We're not even talking about the allegations of racism and ignorance to which he has treated the millions of citizens who loved, supported, mourned, and paid for him throughout his whole life before he met Meghan. I mean, clearly, Harry is so far above the citizens of Britain that he doesn't need to bother with noticing them other than complaining about how horrible they have treated him and Meghan. Harry certainly was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and he was offered the benefits and the freedoms that previous generations simply didn't have, and he doesn't appreciate any of that. Harry doesn't really care about anyone, no friends, no family members, doesn't matter if they're living or deceased, except of course Meghan. Even his invisible children do not appear to matter because he never really thinks about them much, and he demands the titles for them, which he claims ruined his existence. But anyway, since he married Meghan, he certainly has changed. He hasn't done anything except talk about his mother relentlessly. The fact is, Harry doesn't have any respect for his deceased mother either, because he allows Meghan to live in this delusional world, claiming that his deceased mother actually speaks through her. Well, okay, so why didn't his deceased mother speak to her sons? Why did she speak to this woman from beyond the grave, a woman she never met? How disappointing must it have been for Harry when there weren't any signs that people were loving Meghan just like they loved his mother? Now, first things first, Princess Diana was British. She was not a Z-list American actress in her third marriage, and Harry has certainly profited from the tragic passing of his supposedly beloved mother. Now, when we think about the really tragic ending of his mother's life when he was a boy, one would prefer that it was an easy life for him afterwards. There are not many people who are truly grateful for all their blessings, that's true. Harry has never been poor. He has always had everything that he ever wanted in life, so he knows nothing about that lifestyle. Now, if royal life has its problems, okay, he should be happy because now he's free of it. Maybe he can learn a lot by living as a common man eventually, like most people do. But unfortunately, it appears that Harry decided to get addicted to illegal drugs. It really does look like at this point, Harry is so far gone that he doesn't even know what he's saying or doing. We can only assume that he believes Meghan is in touch with his late mother, and he also believes that Meghan is so much the same as her. She's compassionate, she's caring, all that. And when I think about all this, I almost do want to feel sorry for him. And not even necessarily because he's a drug addict. I mean, that was his own choosing. But honestly, folks, there are signs that he's a victim of Stockholm Syndrome. Meghan rules his entire life. He does and says whatever she tells him to. She tells him jump, he only has to ask how high. There are also rumors that Doria has access to a lot of drugs. So could it be that Harry has to comply with Meghan's orders so that he can get his daily dose? I mean, to believe that Meghan Markle is really in touch with his late mother and that Diana approves of everything they're doing, clearly something is happening behind the scenes, something very sinister indeed. Honestly, this whole situation is mind-blowing because there are just so many things wrong with it. Nobody ever expected Harry to compete with his older brother, and they also didn't underestimate him by having zero expectations. Harry's costly education and career options were handed to him on a silver platter, and they really should have offered him a sense of opportunity. Now, the person I do feel bad for in this whole situation is William. How painful must it be to know that this is your brother, your only brother? I mean, he also lost their beloved mother, but he continues to figure out ways to honor her memory, and he really does an amazing job of highlighting Diana's positive traits. But Harry just exploits her memory, and he only highlights her worst traits. It really is all so cruel. And Harry his whole life had a lot more freedom than William, but he was still just as loved and important to his family and his former fellow citizens. Harry really could have done anything that he wanted with his status and his connections, but instead he decided to go down a very dark path, a path filled with resentment and jealousy because he was never going to be king, and he married an evil woman who couldn't be worse for him. And I do believe that Harry's been in therapy, but I think that people like Harry are really difficult to treat. And that's because people like Harry are so hung up on this idea of victimhood. They believe that's a great way to excuse their inadequacies. So therefore they can never really look within themselves and be honest. Now, strangely enough, Meghan could be the only person who could ever really get through to him, because he will listen to whatever she says, and also she's an expert at narcissism. Recently, I came across some news that she was threatening King Charles for ransom to let Harry go. Well, there is not an ounce of truth in King Charles giving them anything. The royal family is going to keep on ignoring them just like they've been doing. So if you come across any rumors that King Charles might be considering giving them money or is going to be giving them money, you know where it came from. It came from Meghan's people. And the purpose of doing this is not very complicated. It stirs up a lot of negativity about the king. Meghan knows what she's doing. She is sly. She plays dirty. Getting people upset at the king plays right into her hand. Anything that Meghan can do to try to destabilize the monarchy, oh yeah, she's gonna do it. Every moment of Meghan's life is dedicated to two primary goals. Number one, to get more money and fame for herself, and also to destroy the monarchy, especially the king as well as the Prince and Princess of Wales. She's gonna lie, she's gonna cheat, she's gonna break laws if she needs to. And before reacting to the lies that she releases, it would be a good idea to step back and not fall into Meghan's little traps. Thanks again to all of you for sharing your opinions, and in this video, if you have anything to say, please let me know below in the comments section, and we're going to talk about your opinions and comments in the next videos. Don't be afraid to like and share my video with anybody else who would appreciate it, and don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.